17 minutes. I was just
welcome. Okay, you messed my intro up. Thanks, Mike.
I'm so sorry. Go for it. Go.
Welcome, everybody, to Flat Earth News Talk. This is Wes Stace, your host. And today, my guest is Mike Helmick. And we also have some other people joining us. We have Brian. We have Mark Sargent, who just popped into the room. And we're going to have Patricia Steer, possibly D. Marble. I sent him a link, too. And Paul on the plane might pop in. So we're going to have a few people popping in and out here and there. So today we are going to be discussing the ISS fakery and the expert behind it all, Mike Hellman. Hello, Mike. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Mark, glad to see you again, sir.
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah. And yeah, we can talk about the ISS space station. We can do that.
All right. Well, so what have you found out? You told me on Skype that you found some pretty good damaging evidence.
Well, it's not damaging evidence. This whole thing started back with a conversation with Red's Rhetoric. Now, we all know who Red is, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we know Red. And Red posted a video that he had taken of the ISS. He was in Florida, passing in front of the moon. And he had a P900. That's what he used. And so he posted this video on his website. Well, of course, you know, me being a flat earth researcher and knowing Red, I was on that like white on rice. So I went, grabbed his video, and I said, there's no way this is real. All right. So, but I didn't make the video. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. So I left him a comment. Just said, you're lying, you faked this. You know, just something to get Red stirred up to get in touch with me. And they did. Red, Soundly, Sly, Sparkay, they all got in touch with me. Pulled me in this live hangout, right? So I'm in this live hangout with them, and I'm telling Red to his face, this is fake, no way, there's no ISS. And so he goes, well, I have the raw video. I said, well, I'd be interested in looking at it. Because here's the thing, when you make a video and you put it on YouTube, it gets recompressed by Google's compression algorithm. And so if you're looking for like forensic evidence, YouTube videos are a bad way to try to debunk something. And so he gave me his original video, sent it to me on Google Drive from his P900. And I examined it, and he didn't fake it. He actually caught something that looked like an ISS crossing the moon. And so then the question in my mind is, well, wait a minute, because we know all the ISS live feeds are fake because of all the mistakes they make with their virtual reality software. Their HoloLens with Microsoft technology is not perfect yet, and how they layer things so they can take an object, hold it, and then they can switch the layer and put it into weightless mode. That's not perfect yet. So we know they're faking that. So what is it that Red saw? Now, of course, in Red's mind, he saw the ISS because, you know, if you're looking for Bigfoot in the forest, you're going to find your Bigfoot, even if it's not Bigfoot. But you're going to find what you believe you want to find. And that is when I started to research because, one, I know the ISS is not up there. So how does Red get a picture of the ISS? And come to find out, there's an ISS tracker. And the tracker is so very convenient, because the tracker tells you when the ISS is going to pass in front of A, the sun, or B, the moon, at your given location and the date. And so all a person has to do is get their camera pointed at the sun or the moon and wait. And lo and behold, you're going to see what appears to be the ISS crossing in front of either or the sun and the moon. And so just that is way too convenient. Just with the orbital trajectory of the ISS, it'd be nearly impossible. Okay. Now, there's no other satellites they do this with, despite the so-called thousands of satellites up there, just the ISS, because it is their big showboat money thing. And when I researched Red's Rhetoric live video, and I took it apart frame by frame, and I put it into Photoshop, and I put it into Sony Vegas, and I started looking at it through filters, I noticed Is there any way I can share screens on here? Because I can just show you.
Go for it.
If I could find my Red's ISS folder. Okay, so
You know how to do that without showing the Hangouts.
No, heck no, I don't. I don't do Hangouts very often. Yeah, I got to share the app itself.
Okay, what I would do? Oh, you mean just on your? Well, no, you still have to go on screen.
Share screen. Then I'm going to do an application window. Then I'm going to click on this guy here, and I'm going to go to share.
Okay, it was good.
Does everybody see that?
You're good.
Does everybody see this?
You're good.
Okay, yeah. So I can leave this window and not like share everything with everybody. Okay, so what you're looking at, does everybody see that photo? Okay, so what we did was we took a P900, we went and took some photos of the moon. This is what scan lines on a regular P900 would look like. Okay, this is the scan lines from a P900, and this is a photo of the moon. Now, the reason why this is important is because, does everybody see this photo? Everybody see this other photo of the moon here?
Right now, it's just black.
Okay. So, did you see the other moon photo before, or did it not show either?
Yeah, we've seen the other one, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, okay, so you saw the one with the, now do you see this photo?
Yes.
Okay, this is Red's Rhetoric's photo from his P900. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see a green bar up here. You can see a red bar, a red bar, a red bar. Do you see these bars on the side of here?
Yes.
These color bars. Okay, those are also color issues with the scanning sensor in the camera. However, they are very unlike what a normal P900 would show, okay? These lines also, you guys remember the eclipse. I think Mark and I actually talked about the eclipse a while back. The moon didn't show up for the eclipse. Remember that, Mark?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we talked about that. And, well, actually, yeah, I think that was on your program. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. Okay, the only two places the moon showed up was in Tennessee. Well, two photos from Tennessee showed up. And everybody else that took a picture of the moon all over, nobody else saw the moon. But in Tennessee, two cameras caught what they call earthshine of the moon. But also in those photos, one was Soundly's, which is a T5 Rebel. Soundly had these strange color variations in his sensors, which I could not explain. See, I thought, well, maybe Soundly faked it. Okay. But what's going on here is these color sensors, what this camera is picking up is a projection from a source somewhere.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that all the P900s actually have a program already built in them. And if you know, I'm assuming that you can actually put coordinates into that camera. Is that true? Or I mean,
I've not really used one, but all I can do is send people out with them to test my ideas and my theories. The other thing with Red's ISS is across the moon. Do you see this picture? Or do I have to reshare this? Can you guys see this one?
No, it's black.
Black screen again.
Oh, bummer. Okay. I don't know why we're having issues with this, but that's okay. I'll just get it fixed real quick. Entire application. Boom. Share that. Now, do you see this?
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
This is Red's ISS. Okay. Now I put this in and okay. This ISS, there's part of the wing and the tip. I know it's hard to see because I had to zoom in, but it completely gets cut off at the moon's line here, when we should have been able to see the rest of the ISS and one or two frames after this. Now you remember this thing supposedly is traveling at 17,500 miles an hour, so it's clicking across here pretty quick. But I still had two more frames. In Red's video, it completely stops, as if somebody had taken a laser pen light and put a dot on the moon and just moved it across. And so
Wow.
we have the strange anomalies with the sensor, which are the same strange anomalies from the projection of the moon they did in Tennessee that Soundly picked up. And so when we see these things in these sensors and these cameras, they actually pick up the infrared or whatever technology they're using to broadcast these images on the surface of the sun and the moon. But this is a projection image. The ISS also had something strange. I don't have his video anymore, but he also his ISS was blinking like it was being projected by something. And me and Anthony and a few others, we analyzed that too. So that's that. Now people may be thinking, well, how are they doing the SpaceX stuff? Because you can actually go to Florida and see the Falcon land. But once again, what I found with the Falcon, one, you have to be far away across the lake. You can't be there on site. So you have to film it from a distance. Number two, compared by several cameras, the Falcon will just suddenly appear in the sky. And I compared this with 3 different people's cameras who were there at the time filming this. They all had the same effect. The Falcon just appears, magic, in the sky. And then the Falcon does its landing sequence with all the noise and the dust and the rocket effects. But once again, I submit to the people, this is projection technology. Now, some people...
Or fake amateur footage, one of the two.
Well, it was 3 different cameras, and that's what I thought at first, too. But unfortunately...
Well, I mean, wouldn't you, if you were going to fake it, I mean, use more than one?
I would. But I got Red's live footage, his footage on it too, and I can tell fake footage.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And when I got like 4 evidences, and then I see where they have to set, and then I see the motion of the rocket coming down, because you can't light a fire under a tube and light it. The physics just won't allow land it. The physics won't allow it. You can't take a tube and twist it around in the air and land it on the ground. Okay,
right.
Just not going to happen. And so after I added all these up, and the fact that the Falcon just suddenly appears in front of people, they're using projection technology. So I got one more thing to share, because I think a lot of people think, well, that's crazy. We don't have that technology. You know, we can't do that. But and I'm going to have to try to share this here. So give me 3.2 seconds. Okay, stop sharing. Share application window right here. I want you all to look at this. Can everybody see this?
Yep. I think I know what you're going to show.
Yeah, okay. So maybe you've seen it before. This here, I'm going to turn the sound off on it so I can talk. Okay, what you're seeing here is not a fakery technically. The Chinese government let the people know what they were doing. They're showcasing this projection technology. They're also able to project sound in this. Now picture the Falcon Heavy coming down, okay, as you're watching it from a distance. Because this is not a real ship. This ship is a projected image done by China. And
now that's amazing, because I just seen the reflection in the water. How do they pull that off?
Through atmospheric mirroring. There's a whole technology behind it. It's a pretty amazing technology they have, but basically it's a surface created, and they're able to, and we don't want to see this, so I'll just stop sharing.
Yeah, well, that was also a hologram.
But
projection.
Yeah, it's all projection. Now you can shoot one of these rockets in space, because NASA's been doing it for a long time, and crash it in the ocean. But you can't get a tube to orientate itself from outer space, turn a tube, and then land.
Right.
The physics on that just will not work.
Out of all the shapes, you'd never choose a tube if you were going to even attempt something like that.
Mark's 100% correct. And it's almost like, Mark, they're testing to see how gullible the people are for something future they got planned. It really seems like that.
Right. I
did a show last week talking about that very thing, And there was this very young, smart kid who is into RCs and 3D printed parts and whatnot. And he built the cylinder, and he followed all the specs that they have on SpaceX, and had all these fans. It was electric. Had them all up there. He almost got it to work, but there's just no way. He's got all these gyros in it. He's a really smart kid. I mean, like, I call him a kid. He's like 20, but yeah, he couldn't make it do it. He said straight out, no, there's no way they can do that.
Yeah. Plus the technology they were even trying to portray, that was a complete ripoff from a movie from few years back called Battle Los Angeles. If anyone's curious, just look up. I think it was the bus scene. It's basically pulse thrust technology, which we do not have. Microprocessor thrust technology that using very, very quick firing engines. And that's what they're talking about here. Landing a tube that's coming down at supposedly supersonic speed, and then, hitting the brakes real fast, and then through sophisticated gyros landing it on the pads. And it's like, yeah, whatever. Plus, you probably noticed, Mike, I've said this on different things, where they landed both rockets right next to each other, which goes against every safety protocol ever in aviation. You wouldn't even land two experimental helicopters next to each other, let alone rockets. But the reason they had to do it, I totally got it, is because you're using movie framing, which is you can't just land one here and then one 5 miles away, because it would confuse the audience. Because the audience say, okay, which rocket am I looking at? Was that rocket 1 or rocket 2? And so the solution is land them both simultaneously right at the same point. And so in that way, you're basically, the term is called thinking for the audience. And the audience doesn't have to even process it. It's, oh, got it. 2 rockets landing right next to each other. I can stop now and move on to the car.
Right. And so you sell the effect.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. You package it in a way that's easy to bring in. And then that's a big thing about movie effects. You have to make it understandable.
Right.
And easy to follow.
Yeah, and it was easy to follow. And what I said now ever since it happened was it was the finest example of misdirection I've ever seen. And everybody bid on it, including me, which was they focused so much on those 2 boosters. Forget the one that supposedly crashed on that barge in the Bermuda Triangle thing, that whole piece of crap. You land rocket 1, rocket 2, you get the crowd noise, blah blah blah, and you can almost see the production trailer, the director in the production trailer going, okay, booster 1, booster 2, and car, and they cut immediately to the car, and that's what everybody missed. And it's like, well, what do you mean, what you missed? We saw the car. It's like, no, where was the freaking Falcon Heavy rocket? Because remember, they just landed the boosters. The big thing was the giant cylinder Falcon Heavy, and then the capsule's supposed to open up. The car is supposed to detach from the big Falcon, and you're going to see it tumbling in the background. Because that's how it works. That last stage, it's supposed to, but they didn't. They went straight to the side shot, the selfie stick on the side, and they showed the car. But the money shot that everyone should have seen was the capsule splitting down the middle, those 2 big pieces falling off to the side, and the Falcon Heavy pose going off in the distance. 3 different cameras. That was never shown. They went straight to the car, and it was good. Everybody bought it. Well, I mean, some of us caught it eventually, but I was looking, going, wait. And so we were questioning the car, but everyone's like, and the reason why they did that is because it saved a production layer. They didn't have to show it, which was, now it's like, okay, we have the car layer and we have the earth layer. But if you have that booster falling away, then you've got to merge the 2, and you've got a whole nother thing, because then you've got to show it falling, and then where is it going? You've got a whole bunch of other questions you got to answer. So I thought it was very interesting.
Right. I think Jaron showed them. This is why SpaceX had to change their live feed on YouTube, which is not possible for us.
No.
They made a mistake.
Well, yeah, the landing pad sequence was brilliant. Yeah, they shot them. I mean, you saw the Jaron thing, just slightly with a couple frames out of sync, and course, the bigger question for me is why, if NASA is going to loan SpaceX, they were so magnanimous. They even painted SpaceX logos on the ground for these guys, and why NASA would help them in the first place. But yeah, when they changed the feed afterwards, and we're not talking about a giant channel. This channel, I think, got 1 million subs or something like that. This was something bigger than that, where you got to go in and change the feed. But it's like, everything on the internet sticks. It was already we already recorded it, so doing that just didn't help their case at all.
Okay, I got to interject. That landing sequence was crap because you didn't see. No, the number one thing. Remember, you didn't see the struts open up.
Right.
From the camera on the rocket.
Right. Good point.
You saw them from the distance, but the camera pointing down, showing them landing, when those struts opened, because they were on all sides, they weren't on that feed.
Right.
I mean, that's when I first went, that's crap.
And also, let's go back to a fundamental thing, which is the whole reason why you're doing the booster things is because you're going to reuse the parts. That goes against every aviation maintenance schedule that's been created since the history of aviation. And that is, you don't reuse parts after something like that. It's that they underwent stresses that were unimaginable. The heat.
I got to correct you on that.
What?
Because you remember, as we looked it up, supposedly, and I'll say the word supposedly,
yeah,
NASA reused those booster rockets. They picked them up after they went down in the ocean or wherever they went and cleaned them. Supposedly, it's on their site. Cleaned them up, and they reused those rockets, the booster rockets for the shuttle. I'm just saying what they say. I'm not saying.
I know. But not buying it. I'm sorry. I've talked
I didn't
to
say
enough
buy it, but
aircraft people over the years. It's like, look, when a part, you got to remember that aircraft maintenance is completely different from car maintenance. Car maintenance, you wait till the part breaks and then you replace it. With aircraft maintenance, it's strictly based on time spent. And once it's had enough time spent, that's it. You swap out the part. It doesn't matter if it looks like it's brand new.
Airplanes in general, 40 years.
Well, they don't have to have a standard, guys, because it's all make believe, right?
Yeah.
It's like Bugs Bunny. He always has the hammer when he needs it. He always has the cake to throw in your face. These things just appear, and we don't question where he got the cake or the hammer. But neither do globe earthers. They don't question things. And even though, we might say, well, the heavy looked like crap in the launch. Here's the thing. You have to have the ability to be critical of what you're looking at. If you don't have that ability to be critical, then you are indoctrinated.
Yeah.
And you won't question. D. Marble, glad to see you, sir.
Hi, guys.
Hey, it's D. Marble.
There he is.
All right. So, what I missed so far? Man,
what can I
say?
Wes was giving all of us free money.
The whole thing.
So
yeah, we missed the whole thing. We're ready to shut down.
Yeah.
No,
we lose, man.
We were initially breaking down the ISS, and then we were kind of looking at the Tesla launch, and I don't know where we were going after that.
Right.
Yeah, with the car tires, you ever seen a pop can in a vacuum that's much less than what they put those car tires in?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Yeah. Well, you've seen at the beginning of my show now, the Strange World thing. I include, and you guys can look up the video online. I didn't create it, obviously. Just look up the power of a vacuum, where they take a steel rail car and expose it to a partial vacuum, and that thing just crushes like Godzilla just squeezed it with a giant claw instantly. I mean, it's jarring how quickly it happens. And that's what we're talking about here with the ISS. Any debunker that's out there. Hi, Patricia.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late. I just want to say, I know when I'm interrupting. There's some people fixing my sprinkler system in my house, and they're in and out. So I kept thinking they'll be done, and they haven't been done. So therefore, they're going to come and ask me a question, and I'll be interrupting. Just letting you know. Okay, go back to what you were saying.
Stick to the getting the makeup on excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Make a new one.
That's not it. Sorry.
It'll definitely work. I even have my Patricia Steer sitting right over here doing a hula.
Oh, God.
Well, you got a Patricia Steer action figure?
Well,
that would be
sort
cool.
of.
Awesome. That is awesome.
You know, now,
We-
1995.
We need a D Marble action figure. We can have the one from Washington State, and then we can have the special Soul edition.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
you know, here's the thing. If we made flat earther action figures, it'd probably make us rich because nobody's gone broke underestimating the intelligence of the general public. People would buy them.
Maybe we could have like a Stretch Armstrong, Paul on the Plane, and Kung Fu Grip. I don't know, Mark Sargent. No.
I'm so glad you said him.
Kung Fu Grip.
Yeah.
And Mark Sargent comes with the Kung Fu Grip.
Yeah,
I love it.
that's an age reference, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Not
My
a lot of-
hula
G.I.
girl.
Joe, right?
yeah, I don't remember the 70s G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu
Hey,
grip.
I
Wes,
remember.
you've got the screen locked on Mike according to your YouTube channel. You're only showing Mike, they say.
Well,
My
who
bad.
else they need to see? Seriously.
Patricia.
Nice.
Well, before we do the action figures, I want, if you must lose weight. I don't want like where you have to pay for extra packaging for mine.
No,
So-
what I was going to say real quick was the on the vacuum thing, which is any debunker that's out there, what Mike is alluding to. Please tell me how an aluminum and plastic can, if you believe that it's up there, otherwise known as the ISS, is not just fracturing at the seams immediately because of the pressure of the vacuum space outside it. Tell me how that happens, because even with steel down here, like a submarine has to be really, really heavily reinforced just to withstand the outer pressure. You reverse that with the ISS. The ISS is supposedly this thin little pop can flying around in a negative pressure of space. No way, no how. Never, ever going to happen.
Hey, Wes, could you fix the me only picture for the people so they can look at everybody else?
I have been working on it ever since someone said something. I think, okay, there. I think it worked.
Well, yeah, because now I just saw Wes. Now I just saw Patricia.
Yes.
And
Okay.
Good.
Oh wait, I don't know
Damn.
if it's. I think you have to unclick the square lit up box around the individual person. Maybe
He's good now. It's showing everybody else.
All right.
Okay, so what Mark was saying, in a vacuum, like you put a pop can, first of all, the pop can is going to come apart.
right.
Second of all, the oxygen in the soda itself is going to separate.
Yep.
Third, it's going to start to freeze.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's what happens when you put something in a vacuum. That's what would happen if you put a man in a spacesuit in a vacuum. Remember, we almost killed a guy, didn't we, Mark, in 1965?
Oh, you saw that video?
Yeah, the only recorded human ever in a vacuum. We almost ended his life. I can't remember the guy's name, but
I'm surprised they attempted it, to be honest. I think there was they hooked it up and then the scientists probably after the fact said, oh yeah, well, nothing's going to be able to I can't believe they put him in that chamber, because yeah, he passed out immediately. And what was that thing he said? He was, oh yeah, I could feel the bubbles on my tongue start to form almost, the second they turned it on.
that's the oxygen being separated from his blood and saliva.
Right.
So-
Now, have you seen because I put that out there, because that was one of the challenges. I said, look, people said, well, what will it take for you to be convinced that we're on some sort of spinning globe? And of course, the first thing I said, well, give me a 4K camera, put it on the side of a rocket, turn it on, do not cut it, and let us analyze the footage. And then I came back a little bit later and said, well, if you want to do something on the ground, put me in one of your astronaut suits, or, put me in a room with another astronaut in a vacuum chamber and turn it on. And it's never going to happen because they only train in water. And some guy sent me a clip from, if you remember, the British television show Top Gear, and a guy named James May. They put him in a G suit, a G-force suit, which is different. It is not an astronaut suit. It is a G-force suit because it's hooked up to a lot of pipes and wires and crap, and it's a pressurized suit. And they put him in a vacuum chamber. And they only turned it on for a few seconds, and that suit went rigid. And that was exactly what I was expect, because the air inside the suit wanted to get out. And so it filled up the fabric, and it made it basically rigid. And since he was sitting down, that's what you would expect, because you're in a flight suit. You're going to be, you don't have to move. Well, as long as your forearms can move, you're fine. So yeah, show me an astronaut walking around. Show me how that little backpack on the back of a spacesuit has such a powerful compressor that it can fight the vacuum of space, and they have flexibility and their gloves work. Remember, it's not just the arms and the legs, it's the fingers. You shouldn't have any finger movement at all, because the little things in your hand should just puff up like the Michelin Man, and you shouldn't even be able to bend them.
Right. Well, that's a good point. The thing to remember, and what Mark was saying, is that even though they have a suit on, the vacuum would still affect the contents of what's in the suit.
Oh yeah.
Affect the contents of what's in the can. Affect the contents of what's in the boxcar.
Right.
It would immediately start affecting what's inside, because vacuums react violently with nature and everything we know about nature. Vacuums are sort of unnatural things.
Yeah, so much so that there was a group out in Germany that said, "Hey, come up with 5 things you would throw at an academic, a scientist, but not some of connect the dots or attacking NASA. Give me 5 things." And one of them I have included, which is tell me about the bleeding edge of space, where the atmosphere thins out and then becomes nothingness of the vacuum of space. Tell me that relationship. Tell me how that happens. And yeah, science can come back, well, no, it's gravity, keeping, I'm going, okay, fine. You want to use gravity for oxygen and nitrogen, what's down here with us, that's fine. But there's a lot of elements that float up to the top, like helium and hydrogen and ozone and fluorocarbons and all that crap. Tell me what happens when it gets up there. Why doesn't vacuum just rip it off? In fact, I heard somebody, I think from the debunking side, that he was trying to debunk it. And he said, no, helium and hydrogen, they actually go into space. Once they get up to a certain altitude, I'm going, okay, then what about the other stuff? You can't tell me that once you get to that certain level, it just, gravity is so strong that it holds on. I'm sorry, I'm rooting for vacuum. I say vacuum wins that fight.
Yeah, because we have a myriad of noble gases,
right?
Such as argon, neon, xenon, just hovering right there, supposedly on the edge.
Right. Yeah. Where's that bleeding edge? I'm sorry, I just don't see it. And when I put those 5 questions, I was supposed to do a debate with I think an astrophysicist out of Georgetown. He folded like a card table. The second he got those questions, that was it. They said just write 5 short questions, and I go, okay, here's the 5 questions. I think they're tied to flat Earth. One was long distance photography. One was the vacuum of space. One was the eclipse shadows. One was the temperature of the moon. One was Van Allen. And that was it. We weren't even we never even got to the point where we were in the same room. He was just analyzing the questions that they had recorded from me and played for him. And he said, nope, that's it. I'm done. So
Darryl, what you think about all this, Darryl? You're quiet. Man, you do a lot of talking in your videos.
Good Lord, man.
Quiet.
Hey, I'm here to learn at this point.
We brought you in so we could learn.
Well, hey, no, I want to talk to Darryl real quick. So I'm jealous. You got to go to South Korea. I saw he went to the South Korean Flat Earth Conference.
That is awesome.
Right. So what happened there? So the guy that put on the conference, Kim Cook-il, he's a flat earther. He was very vocal. Mark, I know you want to say something about you.
I so do.
Kim Cook-il, you leave him alone. That's my buddy now. You stop that. All right. So what happened? Okay, he's a very vocal flat earther. He's really awake and aware of a lot of other conspiracies, right? So he is so vocal to a point that he co-authored a flat earth book out in Korea. So that garnered him lots of attention. That meant that the media got a hold of him, called him in for an interview and sat him down, asked him some questions. And ultimately, the way that the media works here in the US, their SBS called him up, which is kind of the equivalent, as he explained to us, our CBS here in the States. And they did what the media does, is try to make him look crazy. Well, in Asia, in Eastern culture, you can't just dishonor someone out in the open like that, you know. So he took that really personally, and that all happened around the time as the conference took place back in November. So he decided that he would put on his own conference, and you know, reached out to a guy on Facebook from one of his groups, Clark Bernard, the other guy, the bald guy on the pictures, and he was the one who, you know, got in contact with myself. Nathan Thompson said he reached out to Eric Dubay. He was busy. He said he tried to talk to Rob Skiba. Rob never got back to him. But, you know, I mean, that's kind of how all that came about. But it was a good time, man.
Nice. How long was the flight out there?
Oh man, the flight. Let me see. On the way out, well, the whole trip was 15 hours. The flight from San Francisco to Korea was about 12 and a half hours, something like that. So wow. But here's the thing, Mark. So I'm on the left side of the plane. I you know, it wasn't a full flight because it was Wednesday morning. Yeah. And you know, Wednesday morning flight to Korea is not going to be all that full.
Nah, a lot of people. Yeah.
So I got up and moved because I didn't want to sit next to Nathan Thompson for 11 hours. So, no, he's a good guy. He just likes to talk, and I'm a quiet guy. I don't know if you can tell. So I get up and go get next to a window. I get up and go get a window seat, and I tell you, the whole flight from San Francisco to Korea, the sun was visible in the window. It starts off like in the upper corner. I you know, take a nap, wake up, the sun's just okay. It's like here. Okay, I'll watch you know, Justice League, and it just moves a little bit, but it's like we were directly following the sun the whole time. It was the craziest thing. We left San Francisco at about, I want to say about 9:45 in the morning on Wednesday, and we got to Korea Thursday afternoon around 3. Weirdest crap ever.
So wait, it's like daytime for 24 hours for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. it was crazy. So here, one more time. So we left Washington at 7 in the morning. We got to Korea at 3:30 Thursday afternoon. But here's the thing: when we left Korea, it was Sunday around 5:05 was our flight, and then we get back to San Francisco noon on Sunday. So it's like we did Sunday afternoon, like around noon at the twice that day, and then we got back to Seattle at 6. So left Korea 5 o'clock on Sunday, and then we got back to Seattle at 6 on Sunday. So
nice.
It was nuts.
What was the conference?
Certified time traveler right here. Oh, the conference. The conference was, I mean, it was cool. It was a nice venue. Looked like it might have been a church or a small auditorium. Actually, he said it was a theater. So they had a little stage there, had a, you know, projector screen and all that. About 150 people or so showed up. And the weirdest part of that thing, I'll tell you, there was this guy. This guy showed up while Clark was doing his presentation. This guy walks in. He's got on a leather jacket. It's all zipped up to about here. He's got on these aviator lens sunglasses and got a hat pulled down. He just, like, you know, sits down off in the back, and nobody's talking to him. He's not interacting with anybody. And later we find out that Korean Secret Service had showed up to monitor the conference. You know, it was about 10 hours long, and they said that, some guys just came around, and I'm thinking that was one of those Secret Service guys. He was dressed like the quintessential freaking spy guy, just showing up. Okay, anyway, I got the shades on, the hat pulled down low, dark leather jacket. I'm like, yeah.
He didn't exactly blend.
Not at all. I'm like, dude, you should have wore a t-shirt, maybe some jeans, you know.
I wonder if he got interested in the topic after having to sit through all that.
I think so. You know, I mean, he was there during my presentation, so he probably got a red pill. You know, I keep it simple.
He's probably got his own channel now, actually, and it's got 50,000 subscribers.
Right. No. So yeah. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, were they translating for you during, or did they?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Kim Cook-il, he was, he was next to me the whole time, so I would, speak my piece. There were Americans there. A lady showed up from the UK. A couple of American ladies were there from another city in Korea. They took the train in. A lot of them could speak some English, but yes, we had a translator the whole time. It was, and I tweaked some of my slides. I was up until 4:30 in the morning that day, so I got to bed about 4:30. The conference started at 10. I got about 3 hours of sleep, and but I was up changing some of my slides to have Korean translation in them.
Oh, wow.
To kind of cater to the crowd. So
that's cool.
How did you feel?
Like that,
How did you feel being in Korea? I mean, that's probably the most foreign place you've ever been. I would imagine compared to where you currently live. What about the food? The vibe. I would love to go. It's so exciting.
It was fun. It was lots of fun. All the people were really nice to us. The craziest thing was the driving, like navigating around town. It's like maybe we missed all the speed limit signs, but it's just the way that the cars would like just zoom in and then like squeeze in right in front of you. If you didn't slow down, you were gonna have an accident. If I were driving over there, I would have had a freaking heart attack. I was just happy I was a passenger, man. But the vibe, it was, it kind of felt like a little closer to a police state over there. We got cameras all over the place, it was weird at first, but we kind of just got used to it. We went to Itaewon to go pick up suits and all that, and this was at like 2 a.m, and the streets were packed like, it was New Year's Eve in Times Square. It was craziness. People just all walking through the streets, cars just zooming by. I'm surprised I didn't see more accidents. We saw like 3 wrecks, but it was nuts over there.
You said you had to go pick up suits. I mean, that to make presentations out of a respect thing, or?
Well, okay, so we had suits. The suit I wore, I still got that in here. I haven't been able to drop it off at my storage unit, so we just went to go to the garment district, as it were, to go pick up some suits, suit jackets, some matching pants, and all that. Oh, hey man, how's it going? All right, so we just went there to go pick up suits for the presentation, because normally I'd just be in jeans and a t-shirt, but I'm in a foreign country. I didn't really want to do that, so that was something that we kind of agreed on. And I was going to bring my own suit, but I talked to one of the guys. They're like, no, Kim's going to buy us suits when we get there. And we ended up just on this mission to go shopping for a suit like after midnight. It was nuts. Wow. There's a lot of stories from that trip I could tell you, but this isn't about me and my trip to South Korea, but I think it was a good time. I think it was a good time. Everybody was really, really nice, really receptive. And we made some lifelong friends along the way.
Nice.
I think we'll be back next year, possibly.
Sorry, one last question. Did people come in from other places around the Pacific Rim, or was this sort of a short notice type of deal?
Oh no, this wasn't short notice. I'm not sure where everyone came from, but they had advertised for a while. Here, let me see if I can pull one of these out. Yeah, they had these huge posters all over the place.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they had our faces on them.
No, there's some memorabilia there.
Yeah. So
it's like a wanted poster.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, hang on to that.
If you see any of these people, detain them immediately.
And then they handed these out, of course.
Oh wow!
So that was cool. I need to iron those. That's terrible. Haven't been taking good care of them.
All right. But, so I got a question.
But yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Darryl. Go on. I didn't interrupt you. Go on.
No, go ahead, Mike. What's
up? You, Darryl and Mark, you and Patricia, you guys do a lot of talking to people. You run into media. You run into a lot of different ideas and cultures. Where are we at as a whole with flat Earth?
You mean as far as different countries, or just in
your
media?
perception of where you've traveled from your radio program, from what D. Marble has seen in the places he's gone? Are we spreading? Where are we at with it? What's going on with the whole flat Earth thing?
I think we're real close to broaching into the top tier media exposure is where we are. The numbers just keep growing and growing and growing. I mean, we broke 20 million last week, I think, on YouTube. If you type in flat Earth and sort by upload date, I mean, we're gaining. I joked before this. I always said that Trump would beat us, and we're gaining on Trump. He's coming in at 22. We're at 20. And that's pretty amazing, considering he can't literally say a sentence without somebody covering it in the media. And then, of course, with the documentary that's coming out, and there's multiple documentaries that are coming. Mad Mike, they're going to release that this year, I guarantee. That whole Rocket Man thing, for better or for worse. The documentary they followed us around for the last year, that's basically going to give, and I talked about this last night a little bit, that's going to give the media what they've wanted for a while now, which is a buffer, a degree of separation, meaning the media is always nervous about talking to flat earthers directly because they don't know. I mean, it scares them in some ways, plus they will catch crap for talking to, it's like listeners will say, why are you talking to flat earthers? But if there's a documentary or a show or some sort of event that they can cover, like you saw with the Raleigh conference, they covered that all over the place because it was the conference. It's like, somebody's actually promoting the conference. When the documentary comes out, then the media can report on other media. And that's a whole nother thing that they have no problem with, because they say, well, no, it's not us. Somebody already did a film about this, so we're gonna cover that. So we're real close to taking this.
Honestly, Mark, flat Earth is coming out completely. They're revealing it in the next couple days. Unfortunately, it's on April Fool's. So.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Tomorrow, April Fool's Day. That's going to be interesting because I always look to see who that also gives people an media excuse to run funny stories, but that's fine. And we saw, luckily, the Brazilian team. If you guys may have got a little bit about that, the what I call the Ancient Aliens knockoff show, which is really the format that they use. It's like, okay, let's grab an American television concept from 15 years ago and let's do a version of that. But even that's gotten a whole bunch of traction. I mean, they did it in 3 different languages, and even though the English stuff was dubbed, it's still, the first hour of it, the experiments were good. By the time they got to the end, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna go along with the giant lumpy asteroid floating in space, but it wasn't terrible. So I'm sorry, short answer, at least from my side, Mike and others can chime in if they want, is that we're running almost unopposed out there. The science cannot bring anything to the table. Every time I've tried, I've even, offered up my declaration of war. It's like, bring it, fly me out. I will sit for your science
Mark in battle armor.
Come at me. And they're treating me like what's his face, the Highlander from the movie, where he's in the beginning scenes. He's like standing in the battlefield, nobody's touching him. That's what it feels like. So and you see that in YouTube and all other aspects of the only thing, again, we have not reached the top tier of media because there hasn't been a media production that has formally gone into it. And that's what I'm hoping the documentary will do. Then because we haven't reached the mainstream news, they won't run stories like a CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, and those guys, they won't run it. They'll run internet stories on it, but they won't run it on primetime television. We haven't seen The View pick it up, or a morning show, Good Morning America, even though Good Morning Britain did pick it up. So we're close though. Once it's saturated to the point now to where all it takes is one more little thing, and they should grab onto it. So that's my take.
Darryl, you talk to a lot of people, Darryl, and you're popular, and you have haters. I do follow your haters.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
Yeah, you have one particular gentleman who's a black guy. He's like, I don't know what you did to him, but his whole channel's based on you.
I know. I call him Homo sapien.
Greater sapien.
Yeah.
But what's your perception of the people you're running into and the type of people you're meeting? What's going on?
Well, I'd say that we're definitely going viral out there.
Right on.
There was Korea. There's a lot of flat earthers out there, obviously. I talked to a guy from Egypt, kind of flattened him at the mall when he was making a hoodie for me. And, I went back and did a follow-up with him after I did the rap video, showed it to him, and he was actually in that video. He's like, oh, I'm honored that you will put me in it. I'm going to go back and show this to everybody I know in Egypt. And yeah, it's flat. I was like, okay, cool. So Egypt's got flat earthers now. I just got an email or a message on Facebook from a guy in India. He says there's a lot of flat earthers out there. And he says he invites me out to go, sit down with him and, start talking about how to, adjust the education system. I'm like, I'm some dude in a van. What are you talking about? So, I'm like, I'm just some guy, man. I'm just some guy. But, dude, we're all over the place. So we're not, people see it, and that's why I remain optimistic in my videos. I'm like, dude, people are picking up on flat earth everywhere. There are more celebrities coming out about it. Actually, not going to reveal my sources, but there are a lot of celebrity closet flat earthers that won't say so because they don't want to, go through what we go through with the ridicule, but they'll catch it 100 times worse being out in the spotlight like that.
Yeah.
I really want, I want to name names, but we're kind of on the air. Maybe I'll just type them in somewhere or just send you a screenshot at some point. I'm not gonna. I don't want to reveal my source, and I don't want to, betray the trust of this guy. But yeah, there's a lot of celebrities that get it. I will say Morgan Freeman. Anyway, but
I was gonna say Will Smith. I think Will Smith would be maybe potentially involved in that. Morgan Freeman.
I love Morgan Freeman. Out of all of the impressions that I do, he's my favorite.
Oh no!
Right. Today, I want to hear it.
Morgan Freeman is your word.
Today.
Well,
today. Thank you. Thank you so much. Morgan Freeman.
When
Sun came out.
When the media latches onto this a little bit more, and by that I mean, whatever, if they do a reality show or a documentary or whatever they do, that also gives license to actors who up until now, I mean, athletes are a little easier because they're on the road a lot and they watch a lot of YouTube videos and, I think athletes are more susceptible to it, but actors, they're more nervous about coming out. But once the media has some sort of thing that they can latch onto, they'll do the same thing. They won't necessarily come out as flat earthers, but they'll come out and say, oh, it's interesting, or oh, I found it very entertaining, or whatever. They will start commenting on it. And up until now, it's amazing. I know why. You don't want to blow, your agents looking at you in the background. The same thing happened to Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal, where he came out for 7 or 9 days, and then all it takes is one of his sponsors, because he makes $20 million a year, to call his agent and say, yeah, if you want your guy to keep up the Arizona tea deal, yeah, he's got to stop talking about. It's like, well, so his agent books a thing on Jimmy Kimmel, and then Jimmy Kimmel, first question, well, you weren't serious about that, and that was it. Then officially he had backed off. Kyrie won't back off though, which I love. I love that he hasn't done it. That was really, really cool. But why would he? I mean, he's 25, already won a championship. Why does he care? It's like, screw you guys. I'm rich. I'm young.
What does everyone think about Convex Earth, the Convex Earth documentary? Okay. Or unless that was discussed when I was working with the sprinkler fixer.
We discussed it yesterday briefly, when I was with Paul on the plane, which, by the way, I did have him. I did send him out of. He might pop in. He might not be able to, but I just wanted to point out to everybody. Today is the meetup in Minneapolis over at the Flat Earth Brewery at 4:00 today. And Mark, did you get your bus ticket, Mark?
No, I've actually not received my bus ticket to Minneapolis, and I think if it took off from Seattle now, it would probably be too long. But that's a good point that you brought up, Wes. There's a lot of meetups. I've been doing a lot of promos, and I'll keep doing them as long as I can for all these different cities all over the place. And there's a lot more international to D Marble's things. There's a lot more international things that are happening. The Canadian meetup, conference, which is happening in Edmonton, Canada in August. The UK meetup, which I know is not, we're not going to see a lot of it because media is not being allowed in. That's going to be in London in next month.
The Canadian meetup, though, you thought you misspoke, but there is a Canadian meetup.
Yes, there is a Canadian meetup in Toronto, Canada, and that's going to be on the 30th of April, and Patricia and I are going to be attending. So hopefully there will not be an international incident where we are detained for some sort of reason, and then I am eventually put on a no-fly list. But if that happens, that's fine too. And then
we have.
Is that foreshadowing?
I'm just saying. And no, we should be fine because we can just claim the film festival and say, look, it wasn't our idea. You invited us here. And it's like, get out, eh? So
we have 24 people viewing right now. That's probably the highest number I've ever had on my show. So thank you, people. Thank you for stopping by.
Well,
I did a lot of advertising.
Media. That's the thing. Anybody here on the panel, share on their Facebook. I've shared it. That'll help get more people. And
I did exactly that.
There's a number of live things going on now as well. So that always stretches the audience thin, if that makes any sense.
And then, of course, the Denver conference, which is going to be great. So, yeah, there's so many things happening. And Indonesia, somebody asked me, it's like, well, which countries are big into Flat Earth? It's like, well, Pacific Rim apparently is huge. Indonesia has got one of the second biggest only to the United States. Canada's big. Australia, New Zealand, we hear from them all the time. UK is huge. It's everywhere. And again, the Americans, because we don't ever look kind of outside our bubble, we don't type in other languages. But if you're ever curious, type in Flat Earth, convert it to another language, and then type in that phrase, be it Terra Plana or Flasha Erde or all the different sayings. They're everywhere. The Russians are big into it.
There's probably no country untouched.
Probably.
That's good.
Heck, I have a follower. I have one follower from North Korea on my YouTube thing.
Cool.
Which hopefully, again, will not put me on some sort of list. But
so I want to answer Patricia's question, but Patricia, it looked like your brain was wanting to say something. So go ahead.
No, I was just thinking the concave Earth thing. I know that it was discussed with Paul on the plane, Wes, but has anyone discussed it when I was jumping in and out dealing with a sprinkler repair guy?
No. Oh, you go right ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I mean,
conversation.
I was just thinking, what does everyone think about it? I mean, they've been teasing that it's coming up, and then it's coming up for quite some time, and then it was supposed to be in March, and it finally arrived toward the very end of March, as all good teases make you wait and wait and wait till the last minute. I was thinking that they would go against Flat Earth. And it took like 36 minutes, not 33 minutes, for the actual documentary to get to the point, and they kept doing all of the, the music and the special effects and all of that. And they didn't go against Flat Earth, which I was pretty happy to see. They could have done a whole lot more research on satellites not being real, and the NASA and the other space agencies all being liars and in cahoots and other things. But in the end, they did good scientific experimentation, which definitely refutes concave Earth, boom, gone, and globe Earth, gone. So and this, they say there's another continent that we don't know about.
Yeah, which they touched on at the very end, which was kind of weak. I mean, the first hour was good. The experiments were good. I was a little surprised as well that they didn't attack the Americans as far as the NASA program. It's tougher to do it inside here because, we're Americans, go rah, rah. But outside of here, I'm really surprised that more, they take our word for it.
They attacked nobody. And in some way, I was kind of mad. Like, why aren't they attacking, NASA or, RASA or whatever? But then I thought, to get this word out globally, in quotes, not attacking anybody and pointing the finger and maybe positioning it as, well, scientists were mistaken about the shape of the Earth because they viewed it and it looks different than they thought, is a way that it might end up being broken to the average Joe public guy, that it was a mistake, not a devious plot to control all of us, which of course is what it is.
Yeah, you're right. They were treating it kind of like they were trying to sell it as a little television show down in South America, because you could have taken that thing, chopped it up. They even had the spacing about right, where they had cliffhangers after every experiment. It's like, we did this experiment and we're going to tell you the results after Weather and Sports.
This word from our sponsor.
Exactly. They did it. I mean, they took it straight out of our playbook. We've been doing that literally since the 90s up here.
Okay.
So, but it's okay. I mean, it's a good enough. Again, the first hour has enough good experiments that it should have people scratching their heads.
Could have been worse. Could have said.
It could have been a lot worse.
We saw especially the very beginning when it was talking about the boats going over the horizon. They weren't saying what they'd found yet, and they were teasing. And I was thinking that any moment now they're going to say, and yes, we looked with our naked eye, and the boats did go over the horizon, and that would be it.
They rode the line between a flat Earth but they still were kind of talking about a geocentric model with a solar system. They and honestly, the flat Earth is such a broad topic now. You can't cover it at, what was it, 2 hours, or no, an hour and a half, hour 35, something like that. You can't do it in an hour and 35. There's only so many aspects. So they chose, okay, we're just going to do scientific experiments, and their laser test I thought was pretty good. I thought their nighttime stuff was solid. They did a lot of stuff during the day. I felt bad because a lot of your optic tests work better in cold temperatures. Really, the Russians and anyone up in the northern countries like Norway and Finland and those places, they'd have a great time at doing it because cold weather really helps the optics. Down in South America, probably the worst place you could do optics. They would have a massive Fata Morgana effect down there. But
way too stirred.
It was
in the air.
It was worth it. Helped us, I think, in the long run, and it'll take a few weeks before certain media start jumping on it, and because it was reproduced a lot. A lot of people have mirrored it.
Yes, a lot of people have mirrored it. I thought that was really, really great. Everyone jumping on board and doing it.
Okay, so
I was probably.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say hello to Authentic Intent. Joshy is here. He popped in.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hello.
Hey, man.
Good to see you. Here
What's
I
up,
am.
Josh?
Glad you're here. Glad to meet you. I don't think we've talked before.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to say
today's the big day, so we got
hello to her. How are you at?
Nice to meet you, Josh. I'm a big
yeah,
fan.
you too, D. Yeah, so today we got Flat Earth meetup at the Flat Earth Brewery. Where else would you have a Flat Earth meetup? So that'll be at 4:00. Glad the weather is cleared up. So I'm excited. Good to see everybody on the panel.
Tori McAvoy in the live chat says, "Hey, Josh, I'll be meeting you at the meetup later. Looking forward to it." So
Awesome.
people are getting hyped up already.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he told me earlier. The same guy told me. He says, now I got a smoking buddy."
Okay, so I want to break down the Convexa video for the flat earthers out there. Okay, because on my end, I do the research, and I've had so many messages. Hey, Mike, they could have faked this, they could have faked that, they could have faked this. And here's the thing, it's a documentary. Okay, you film the documentary after the multi-tentacle beast comes out of the river and eats the villagers. Then you do the documentary about it, okay? And that's what the Convexa video is. It is a documentary professionally done after the fact to be presentable to the mainstream public and scientifically minded. What the video is not, and they used green screens, they used some post-processing effects to simulate some of their experiments. What it is not is cameras there why they actually did a lot of the experiments. Not all of them, but some of them. It is a professionally done documentary, no different than what any other animal documentary do or any professionally done documentary would have done. So any flat earther saying they fake this and fake that, no, it is a documentary done just like everybody else does documentaries that you watch on TV. It's professionally done so it will appeal to the mainstream public and not just some backwoody thing with the shaky camera doing this and that. Because to do real experiments, you're going to have camera shake, you're going to have adverse weather conditions, you're going to have retake after retake. It's just not going to appeal to the mainstream people who watch and are used to professionally done presentations. So I want to cover that. Second of all, they have an agenda. Mark brought up they didn't cover space is fake, but actually there are videos they have done in the past, because I researched these guys, I researched every one of them. They question the authentic space narrative. They question it. They didn't bring it up in their video, but that is in the back of their mind. See, much like us, when I got involved in this, it was just, Mark had probably been in it almost, 6 months. His Flat Earth Blues come out. When I got involved in it, I'm trying to figure out things too. Mark's figuring out things. We're all still using heliocentric science, but we're putting a flat Earth in its place. And it's kind of like Christians do. Well, God created the heavens and earth, but God created a ball and threw it around the sun, but God did it instead of the big explosion. Christians also have not gotten their heads wrapped around the fact that Earth's not a ball flying around the sun either. And so when you're starting out and you're doing experimentation, it is really hard to throw away everything that you knew to be true before, because you have no reference point to use for the flat Earth part. Okay, like our 5 layers of atmosphere, that's a bunch of nonsense. Also, we have an ionosphere, and that's it. Everything above is covered with sulfur hexafluoride. All right. Right below that is our noble gases. We can't get past that barrier. Okay, it acts like water. Sulfur hexafluoride is like it's a heavy gas. It does not conduct electricity, so it looks like you hit water. That's why we have all these YouTube videos. Well, the rocket hit the water, or the dome. No, the rocket hit the sulfur hexafluoride gas and got suspended briefly. And Germany found that out. And so in their defense, if they're trying to legitimately figure things out, because a lot of these guys believed in UFOs, okay, they are kind of into the mysticism of portals and pyramids, and that's why in the video you'll see their shirt that says portal on there, because it's other things that they're investigating and studying. So they have an agenda, but what they presented is evidence that we have already presented. The evidence is documented. It can be reproduced. Their evidence on boats going over the curve, and Patricia mentioned that, is excellent, because Sander, Dr. Zach's friend, and there is a scientific article on the Science Forum of his findings of Blake Bolton of the non-uniform density line as boats are going out into the water and they start to look like they vanish. What you're seeing is an angular mirror refraction or an inferior mirage. That's what you're seeing. The boats do not disappear over the horizon, and they showed that beautifully, and they showed how that works. And so I think for all the flat earthers who question the integrity of the video, the video is great for us. The video is professionally done. The video will get a lot of people's attention, and I have no reason, even though yes, they did use some green screens, and yes, they did add some post-processing things. It's nothing different than what anybody else is out there doing. And I think that it is a step in the right direction to get something of that quality out to the public. And I see no reason to question their integrity or their motives at this time.
They did say something along the lines of the solar system may not be what we think. They did throw in the may not be what we think phrase here, there, and everywhere about certain stuff, except satellites, darn it.
Yeah, their satellites don't work with any orbital mechanics on their model. That's not, satellites continually fall around the Earth. That's how they work, because they're traveling at 17,500 miles an hour. So it's a constantly falling rate. So their satellite idea won't work. But here's the thing, and I was thinking about that. Do you really, your first high production video, do you really go after all the world governments in one swoop right away and try to say they're all wrong? Or do you just present ideas for people to think about at first, take it slow, and then start introducing? Because I can tell you, a couple of those guys, one of those guys has articles on his own personal website just against SpaceX and how everything NASA does and everything's fake. So the guys that helped in the projection do not buy into any of the satellite ideas.
Good.
And so I think I think the important thing is, if you're doing something, do it smart, and present it in a non-attackive, non-aggressive, hey, think about this way. If you're going to do something professional and want it to get it on the same TV program that CBS has broadcast to people.
Right. Soft pedal it, I guess, or drip feed it to the public until they get used to certain ideas, and then spring the whole truth on them at the end when they're not looking.
Right. And so I think it's a smart approach. I don't disprove flat Earth by proving Darryl and Mark are idiots. I don't disprove flat Earth that way. And unfortunately, and it's not the way to go. You know, it's not. And so I think they, even though we've been in this a while, wish they would have said a whole lot of things and did things different. I think for a mainstream media presentation, it's excellent.
What?
Right, exactly. You brought up a really good point because this is something that bugged the heck out of me, and I've kind of argued with Brian about satellites a lot, and it's just basic physics, their physics, where they say that to gain your weightlessness is that you're falling around the Earth. But yet they weren't falling around the Earth when they went to the moon. And it's like, when you're in space away from Earth, if it actually exists, you would not be weightlessness. Wouldn't you think?
Right. Gravity pulls at 9.8 per second meters squared. The moon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The whole moon thing is, see, they want you to forget about what they did in the past so they can make the narrative for the future. And Mark knows this. He's been following NASA. The science changes from the moon landings till today. Supposedly the ISS is only under 90% of Earth's gravity. Gravity operates on the inverse square. If that's the case, what keeps the moon in orbit? Certainly not the Earth, if that's the case. And so they want to change that, because supposedly Apollo rockets zipped around the Earth real fast and then went into what they call a slingshot orbit, okay, which theory would not work today. It would not, they would not escape supposedly they would not escape the Earth's gravity all the way there, which they used no fuel on the way there, and then they did a slingshot maneuver around the Earth using the moon's gravity to get back to Earth, which is complete nonsense by what they explained today.
All right, I guess I gotta chime in because you all brought up satellites.
I knew you'd be here.
Here we go.
I knew you'd be here.
I guess I better turn your volume up.
All right. To clarify the records, yes, I believe in satellites. So everybody can get that off their chest now. But what I don't believe is the physics they use to put them. All I'm saying is there is some kind of machinery up there. Maybe not 3,598 of them, but I'm saying we have some way to put some machinery up there for slight communications, not this broadband, direct TV stuff and everything else. And I'm not saying they orbit the Earth or anything. I'm just saying somehow on the flat plane, they do have the ability to put machines, not people, but machines up
Balloons?
there. Could be some. Yeah, I can say that. So when I say I believe in satellites, I mean there is a couple things up there that do certain things. Okay,
I agree with that.
I'm not, because I don't know how, and I will agree their physics don't work. As I explained once before, with the ISS traveling at 17,500 miles at that orbit, but yet ICBM flies twice as high at the same speed, and it doesn't lose orbit, so that doesn't make sense. So there is a contradiction there. But I do believe there are satellites. And yes, as me and Wes talked before, when we talk about the Apollo mission, supposedly when they went to the moon, but they were weightless the whole way, but they should have been, ironically, pushed back in their seat. They would have had weight to the back because they were moving forward and the Earth's gravity would have been pulling them and all that. So that doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah.
But there, I said my
bring up. No, that's good. That's good. That's what we're here for, man.
Okay, so what is above us? And let's talk about that for a second. Here's the thing, and NASA, as Mark has mentioned before, is not a space agency. They are a military branch of our government, right, Mark?
Yeah. They're DoD the entire way. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so they're not, the space thing is kind of like stuff they're throwing in and using special effects to fake space because of the narrative they're keeping. We have an electromagnetic field that covers the Earth. We have a positive and a negative. And on top of that electromagnetic field, we are able to now have things that can repulse that field. In other words, we have things that can hover almost indefinitely on top of another magnet. And I think the planes like the TR-3 might be based on this technology. A lot of people say the TR-3 has anti-gravity machines, but if you look at the paneling underneath the TR-3, it looks like the same type of stuff you'd use to suspend yourself over another magnet or another field, a polarized field.
Sure. And
their electromagnetic technology is very advanced. HAARP is based on that through the microwaves. We tracked earthquakes that came from the South Pole. Some beam projection picked up on their own radar through all the thousands of buoys they have out in the sea. Here's another thing. GPS is done by buoys in the sea, people. You can look it up on the NOAA's website. We have buoys all over the place that not only have radar for weather, but broadcast GPS signals. So that's how you get GPS out in the middle of the Atlantic somewhere. And also internet now. They're starting to equip these buoys with internet feeds. Okay, it's not satellites. And so we have this electromagnetic technology that's not based on particle physics. Particle physics, I believe, is a science used to confuse the rest of the world. And I believe it's done because of security reasons. I mean, look at Germany. Germany was technology-wise, had they got off the ground, we'd all be speaking German now. Germany was a small country that almost took over everything based on technology. And so if you feed the rest of the world particle physics, hide what light really is, it's a wave propagation through a field, then you can hold on to all the top technology while all the other little guys are still chasing after particles.
Right.
And, I don't want to get too complex or advanced in the discussion, but we know, and even in the Convexa video, they talked a lot about the electromagnetic field. And it's very important because how that magnetic field is put over Earth, how it operates, is going to be a key determination on coming up with a final Earth map.
Agreed. And it was something that Brian had said months ago, which was, what if there was some sort of electromagnetic, I'm going to use different words, electromagnetic layer up there that they discovered that you could put something in there and keep it up flying for a long, long time, with microprocessor technology. It's possible. I think it's in the realm, but
some people have said things like that they may have found a way, I'm not saying I believe this, I don't know, to stick something to the firmament,
or at the very least create a place where you could bounce a signal off, like a signal concentration point that you could use as a repeater for other places.
They have a lot of things we don't understand. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I mean, even 0-point energy, which Tesla had discovered. But to have a 0-point energy source, if you read the CIA documents, they thought they would have to go into space to get this. But reality is we have 0-point energy source signatures coming from the South Pole, not the North Pole, which is very interesting. Nothing flies over the North Pole. I've been studying flight routes for a long time. Nothing crosses North Pole Center. Nothing crosses South Pole Center. But the signatures, when we had all those earthquakes, we had a day, and I made a video about this. We had a day, we had an earthquake on every continent in the Pacific Ocean. Every single continent experienced tremors that day. And it was also that day we get these signature waves coming from the South Pole. So each pole has 2 magnetic points on it. Okay, we've mapped this under CIA's documents. They have 2 magnetic fields on each pole. And the technology between the 0-point energy wave is finding those 2 power sources, focusing that through a magnet, and you have unlimited energy that's not affected by distance or time. And so these are technologies that we want to know more about. We also have the atmospheric lensing and the weather creation technologies, all based on electromagnetic theory. And so I didn't mean to interrupt the other guy. Go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think something that we need to be careful, I still feel we need to be careful about in this community is jumping on theories basically that we cannot prove at this point. So, I'm all for, curvature test, laser test, and things we can test. But like, I always, when everybody asks me questions like, what's up there above space or whatever question they propose, I tell them, I don't know. And I don't care right now at this point because it's nothing that I can prove. I know because I can't get a rocket and go up there or anything. However, it's great to theorize and all that, but I always warn people about going on tangents on things that we can't necessarily prove at this point, and we should stick to subjects that we can legitimately go through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same hand, you got to stop and think about science and how much of that can we prove?
Well, no, but see, you can prove the vacuum stuff. I'm not saying don't go off into the space stuff. I mean, like ISS, there's some great stuff on ISS as far as like the videos with the bubbles stuff and all that. Yeah, but like with the vacuums and the valves, and I still want to know, how that aluminum up there doesn't melt and freeze and crack and all that. That's stuff that we can prove and see on, stress tests and all that, like the car. Why the hell does the tires explode? Why isn't the window cracked? I'm not saying disregard it all, but I mean, it's like satellites, okay? I think there's satellites up there just because some basic stuff that I pick up and everything else. But I'm not going to go off on a tangent trying to either prove how they do it, because I'm not going to prove how they're up there or anything else. But it's irrelevant. Could there be satellites on a flat plane? There could be. How do they do it? I don't know. I don't think there's people up there in the ISS. Absolutely not. Because
they
of
just
vacuum and everything else. But back
they
down.
Might have some. They just might have some double-sided tape they put up on the firmament. I don't know.
They could have something. I don't know.
It's when I describe it to people, I usually will feel them out and try to figure out whatever concept they're most comfortable with. I mean, you've heard me say instead of dome, I'll just start shotgunning it and saying, okay, planetarium, terrarium, and people will come up with their own stuff. Some people, different people that have talked to me said, oh, like a petri dish. I go, if petri dish is what you want to go with, great. The most odd one, and this shows you the level of where they were, was when they were saying what's it kind of look like from the outside, and he said, oh, like kind of like a pizza box. I said, okay, if pizza box is what you can relate to, by God, why not? Why wouldn't it be like a pizza box? Squarish. Of course, it's not
go for it.
Cardboard with grease stains and some little cheese bits, but it's and what was the thing? Not to name drop, the thing that Russell Brand brought up. I was just firing stuff at him until finally I said snow globe. And I know some people don't like to hear it, but he goes, oh, snow globe, and he related it to his audience. It's like, okay, so your audience understands snow globe. That's what we're going to go with, as long as, because of course everyone's got their own way of digesting it. It just takes them a while to do it. You give them the basic framework and let them fill in the blanks the way they can do it without losing too much sleep. course, most people lose like 2 weeks of sleep anyway. But
Mark, that's excellent, Mark, because make it relatable.
Yeah.
Flat Earth is going nowhere if it's not relatable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what producers have been trying to figure out for a couple of years. It's like, okay, the first question is, can the audience take it? Can they take it without freaking out? The big thing of like, why would the government do this? Well, because people might freak out. So producers have been trying to introduce this. What was that saying from FDR from way back in the day? He goes, only give people, the public, the amount of truth they can handle. And the rest, you just hold back. And so, yeah, when this thing kind of goes into the next layer of media, it won't be for us here and people who have been in it for a few years. It won't be that same sort of animal. It'll be the, for lack of a better word, the kids version of it.
Which is what we need, Mark.
I know. It won't be satisfying to people in the community.
Yeah, we'll hate it, but it's good. It's a good.
I know. Remember, it's that whole Flat Earth University thing where we've been in it 3 years for some of us, and some longer. Oh, by the way, I do think that the Brazilian team might be exaggerating a little when they said they've been working on this for 7 years, which they stated repeatedly. It's like, I don't think so. I think you're just trying to get the jump on the Americans. That's fine. You want to say you've been researching for 7 years. But for everyone else, that is the one, and you've heard me say this before, it's the one thing, the one mistake that everybody in the community makes at least once, which is you working on it, you get it. You totally get it. And then for some reason, you forgot how long it took you to get there. It's like, it took me 4 weeks to get there. And then it's like, oh yeah, my buddy, I can totally convince him in an hour. No, you
That's so
can't.
true. So true.
No, you can't. Oh, don't.
I found your clues in March of 2015, and I started like little by little after thinking it over and understanding it and doing more research, etc. I started doing little teaser tester tweets that would go from my Twitter to my Facebook. And they were flat earth videos that I was sharing, or my opinion, or very generic, like you decide kind of things. Boy, I got unfriended and made fun of and mocked, etc. And I was building my own confidence and my own thought process before I started a channel, which wasn't till August of 2015. So if I expect somebody to get it, the light bulb to go off within, me just giving them one video or something, then I'm nuts. I got it pretty quick. Most of us here did. Some people take longer. The way you can tell a person that will probably get it, even if it takes them a month or two, and a person that won't, is immediately, if they just call you a moron, most likely they're not going to be open-minded enough to investigate. If they immediately say, well, but, I believe we went to the moon, that could be another indication. But even people who believe we went to the moon can change. I thought we went to the moon before all this happened. So you just have to give people the benefit of the doubt and even let them call you names. Of course you can block and delete, but, let them deal with it the way that they know how. It's sort of like death. Weirdly enough, it's the death of the belief system that we grew up with. And when you have a death of a friend or a family member, it is a process of grieving you go through. Some people actually laugh when they hear about the death of someone. Some break into tears. Some people don't eat. Some people overeat. Some people go into a depression. Some people go into manic activity. Finding out about flat Earth is also a process, like the process of accepting death. So gotta let people do their thing.
And it's been quicker. People have been catching on to quicker, mostly that I've seen, because of the sheer amount of content that's out there. Meaning, when you go in, it's still going to take you a while to digest it, but then there's a quicker leap of faith because there's so many people now that are making flat Earth videos, and there's so many people that are in it that you almost feel immediately, it's like, holy crap, I'm not part of this group. And what's the old saying? If a million people jumped off a bridge, would you go to? That's sort of like what flat Earth is. But people are going, oh, wait, well, this many people are into flat Earth. There's got to be something to it. My mind's still rejecting it, but I'm kind of being pushed into it by peer pressure, which is a weird thing to say, that there actually is a flat Earth peer pressure out there now. Because now you got some celebrities, and there's people with big channels talking about it, and it's easier now to flip than it used to be. What used to take months, now I think takes weeks or less in some cases.
Yeah.
What was that lady from Pasadena? Not to be confused with the little old lady from Pasadena, she came to the meetup. She was an Uber driver, and she literally flipped in the 20 minutes that it took her to drive one of our members to the event. And women are more open-minded than men in that regards, but it was amazing. It's like, wow, 20 minutes. I'm totally jealous. It took me so long.
It's almost evangelistic.
It was like 8 hours.
Yeah.
8 hours and 40. Oh, sorry. 8 hours and 45 minutes for myself. And then another 45 minutes was with you, Mark, on the phone. And then we did another 45 minutes after that, doing my very first show.
You're right, Mike. There have been quite a few, and I don't want to necessarily. I try to avoid this. I have over the last year or so, which the evangelistic side of it, because I'm really surprised that more people haven't made that comparison, and we've been lucky in that regards. It would have been so easy for media to turn this into, well, it's some sort of cult thing, but we've been lucky that the community is so positive. Nobody's blown up a post office. And nobody's running around the streets, nobody. It's all very, very positive. I mean, and like the music plays it out. I mean,
Flat Earth is not a cult.
Exactly. Oh, is that the robes we're going to be using? Those are really good. Good robe and hoodie. But it's true. We use some of the same terms, faith, belief, and there should have been more comparisons, but we've been lucky. So
well, here's my thing. I've been I'm the relatable, just regular guy who's saying things, trying to beat them to the punch before they start to call flat Earth a cult. I'm kind of call it like trying to beat them to the punch. Like, well, wait a minute. One of the characteristics of a cult is the people who end up leaving the cult are usually the ones that get attacked. So that's us in this scenario. We're the ones that are attacked by all mainstream society. You can have, all kinds of crazy people out there in the world, and the media doesn't go in on them nearly as tough as they do on flat earthers. So,
right.
It's lockstep across all of mainstream. You can be a man wearing a dress, and you can get the cover of, Lifetime magazine as one of the year, and everybody's okay with that. But come out and say that the earth is flat and you're insane, you're a nut, you're an idiot, moron, retard, or whatever. Yeah. And
or they think you're a Christian.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Right. So there, that's how they treat us. If anything, they're part of the cult of scientism, right. Because here a cult in religion, if I understand correctly, well, there's always some sort of faith-based structure. Okay, they always say, well, there is curvature, you just can't see it. Okay, so you're believing in that curvature that you can't see. Well, space is out there. How you've never been there, so you just have faith in space. Well, the Earth is spinning, you just can't feel it. Oh, so you just have faith in your scientism priests who told you that the Earth is spinning and drew a bunch of numbers on a board. So, you guys are believing in things that can't be proven. I can prove to you that water doesn't curve in large quantities. So, where are you at? We're not the cult. We're not the cult.
And exactly. Even if we are a cult, even if you're going to use that reference, if that question ever gets posed to me, I'm going to tell them, it's like, well, if we are, we're far more effective than just about any other group out there. I mean, again, we have a 99% retention rate. Nobody, how many people? Sorry, what was that, Zulu? Oh, wait, I see his face.
I was just gonna say one of us.
One of
us.
Seriously, find not to steal from another saying, but once you go flat, you never go back. It's like, or what is it? You never go globe. You never globe back. That's what it was. That was the new one that was people are throwing out.
I think Candy Franklin made that up, if I'm not mistaken. No?
Shocking, not me.
Hey guys, sorry, I got to run.
Okay.
Nice talking to y'all.
Okay.
Bye, Brian.
Bye, Brian.
Catch y'all later.
Thanks for coming, Brian.
But it's true. I mean, our retention rate is massive. If this thing had any real cracks, any real flaws in the logic, oh God, there'd be 10, 15, 20% that would drop out. I mean, we got a better retention rate than Scientology, and that's saying something.
Because our evidences are solid.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Don't you have to have worship or a great leader in order to be defined as a cult? I bet we could look up what defines a cult.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you go down that Jim Jones path, but like Scientology, you get what L. Ron Hubbard, but I don't necessarily think he was worshipped as like some sort of demigod. But yeah, you generally do. You generally have a person that speaks sage-like wisdom, and there's a Bible. Look, we aside from Patricia's robes, we don't have uniforms. We don't have a flat Earth official Bible. It's more open. I mean, it's not as open and as silly as Occupy Wall Street. But
we don't also have requirements that people give up their current way of life and join us. We have everyone living a wide variety of lifestyles. People are living in apartments. People are living in vans. People are living with friends. People own homes. There's every sort of type of lifestyle going on, and different dietary things going on. There's vegan people. There's people who eat raw meat. I mean, there's everything going on in flat Earth. So
and you don't have to be you don't have to pay to be a flat earther.
Yep.
We're no cult. Globe Earth heliocentrism is a cult.
Correct. Yeah.
If you're in a university and you find out something, you publish something that is against their narrative, you were cast out, you were defunded, and thrown away.
Oh yeah, which of
and
course
discredited.
Which of course is why the academics are having such a hard time addressing this. Because they don't want to be ostracized. I was told this early on. I said, why can't I get anyone in the scientific community to come out against this? And I say, are you kidding? Do you know how much money and time it takes to get that sort of education? You're not, and again, it's really fragile. Brian Mullen was a perfect example of that. Once you get your degree in a particular discipline, you are beholden to that group. A set of standards, a certain ethics. You cannot deviate from that. And if you do, you've heard me say it. You don't want to. Do you want to be that guy that goes into a flat Earth debate thinking you could sleepwalk through it and gets crushed? Oh God, they would. The community would slam you right off the bat and say, yeah, you don't get to hang out with us anymore, and don't ever think about publishing.
Yeah, it is a blood covenant. You break that blood covenant. Yeah. They ruin your life. It is exactly that. They do,
and you don't bounce back from that. It's not like you can go to a different place and be a professor somewhere else. It's like no. We know everyone, and you can't be that anymore. So I don't blame them for staying away from us, but at the same time, we're winning basically by attrition. The war that's been going on the last 3 years, we've had just token resistance. Neil has not brought his best game to the table. Brian Cox has not been doing much. Bill Nye, they wouldn't be dumb enough to put him on any sort of pedestal against us. So it's going very, very well.
Yeah, I'd like the flat earthers to fund me to go to college, and I will do the physics. I will become a physicist. And granted, where.
No, you don't. You don't want to.
No, just so that I know what I'm talking about. I mean, when you come up with because there's a lot of smart people out there. I mean, you talk to, even with what Sean Joshi does. I mean, when he goes down to the college and he's talking to some pretty smart students, and even though I still think he wins the battle every time, you got to be able to be smart enough to be able to contradict what they're saying, or to at least have them think.
Yeah, in some ways you do, but at the same time, I don't think trying to go against physicists on their level does anything, because their doctrine, I've said this before, if you have a master's degree in a physical science or higher, you're not snapping out of this. Even if it was on mainstream media, you would be still in denial about it. The conditioning is just too far along. You're talking 12 years of high school plus another 4 years of undergrad plus another couple of years of master. It's 18 years.
But you have to stop. You have to stop and think about how many physicists were out there who actually looked at something, whether it has to do with space or whatever, and they started running numbers and like, wait a minute, this is not right. Now they're not going to say anything to anybody because, like you had pointed out many a times, it's their livelihood. They just dump 80 grand or more into their education. But I'm sure there are some out there who are just like, maybe this doesn't make sense.
Maybe, but it even affects them when they retire. You can't, like, I would have loved, I would love to get a retired astrophysicist, but even then it's difficult because you're published and you don't want that to be damaged. For them, it's all about legacy. It's all about putting whatever, this is my brain on paper and it's going to be there forever. Well, it won't be.
He was a great physicist until he got into flat Earth. Yeah.
Right.
So. Well, I think Mark's right. We're not going to attack them on their level from an astrophysics perspective with their science.
And we don't have to, Mike, because remember, this is the best part. Not to say that it's well, I'll just call it what it is. One of the reasons we're winning is because the general population relates to us more than it relates to them.
Exactly.
They look at our arguments and look, flat Earth clues didn't have any math in it at all. It was really just connect the dots. And if you know anything about the connect the dots, that's childhood frolics right there. That's easy stuff. And the general population that is now entertainment media based, and science has been really effective. Honestly, science is the ones they're the ones that set this thing up. They hung themselves because they were the ones that went to the population some decades ago and said, you know what, leave science to the scientists. Let us worry about all that stuff, which is fine. Okay. We just figured out a way to address it to the population to where in their terms, and now science cannot figure out a way to dumb down their equations to where they can actually debate us. There's nothing there. And I said where science is now coming off, that the population is now so entertainment based that when science even tries to talk to them, they just hear static. You might as well be talking Greek or Latin or something. They just don't hear it. Whereas they hear our stuff, and our stuff may not sink in immediately, but they're getting it. They're getting it really, really fast. It's like, oh yeah, here's the model. Here's what's happening. Oh yeah, NASA, they're a piece of crap. We use simple terms, simple diagrams, simple graphics. There's some advanced stuff down the road, but to get them in the door, that's easy. You can get somebody in the door in an hour if you wanted to. Whether or not it sinks in, that takes a little longer. So,
now there is sciences out there that are proving things that benefit us, but it's not published. It's not. No. There's a government narrative that runs in the media that people so bump into. But I'm going to tell you, if you go to NASA and you dig through their documents, you'll find all the evidence you need that space is not real. Right. You'll find out how they determine something's a planet because they're looking at a screen with some blips on it. And so they'll tell you that, well, we imagine this and we imagine that and we imagine this is an ice planet off a couple blips. They'll tell you that what they're doing is not even science. We got in touch with Rob Simmon. You guys knows who he is, the Photoshop guy has to be. We talked to him. Yeah. He handed us Russia's FTP server. He handed us Japan's FTP server for the Himurari 8. in the Titan. There's servers that have the model of the it's a ball model that they put their ground radar images on and show it to the public as a satellite image. And Rob Simmons says, no, these are all just images based on the Midal computer, which puts these images together. They're not from space. Rob Simmons told us all this and gave us the servers.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, why is he saying this? And you'll come to find out that the truth's there in front of you.
Right.
It's out there.
It's tough to get the population. The population's attention span is so limited that it just you have to hit them with small sound bites and hope that some of it sticks. And so far, again, it's been going extremely well.
Yes, it has. Yeah, they don't take time to research this. They don't take time to dig in. They just want to hold it to them with some pictures that they can comprehend, and then they'll get it.
Right.
And I think we've done a good job.
I agree. I've got a family thing I got to do, Wes. But thank you for inviting me and all that fun stuff. And
Mark, glad to talk to you again. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure we will. Absolutely, we will.
I had a quick text from Paul on the plane. He said the same thing. He's got family things, so he cannot join us today. But I'm so glad that you popped in.
Oh yeah.
Thank you much.
Hey, talk to you guys soon. Mark, say something. Oh, by the way, D Marble, love you.
Yeah.
Keep it flat, Mark. Keep it flat.
All right.
Bye, Mark.
Bye, guys.
Okay, I was going to get back to Mike.
What I do?
Any other things that you have found out about the ISS? Because I don't think we quite got into all of it, but maybe you already covered it. We have approximately just a little under 15 more minutes here to make this a 2-hour show because I do need to get ready for my meet.
I talked to D Marble about this. I have not run a video on my channel because, when you tell flat earthers you can see the ISS according to the transit tracker, that's a hard thing to tell them. I will say this: you can see something that resembles an ISS on the ISS tracker if you point your camera at that moon or sun position during those times. You possibly will catch something that will look ISS-like. It's all based on projection technology, just like how they land the fake X rockets. And we've studied this, we examined this. What I need is more flat earthers with P900s or something with a really good zoom. I want to see the sensor, what their sensors, how they respond, because our findings is that the sensors start picking up these red, green RGB lines right before and after the ISS supposedly passes by. Something's affecting the sensors of the camera during the transit, and I need more evidence. That
could definitely be a laser projection. Very simple.
A microwave projection, an infrared projection of some type. So that we need, but you can catch the ISS, but it's not up there, folks. It's not. It's the same projection technology that Fake X uses, same projection technology that China has shown their people openly with saucers flying in the air and cities in the background.
Hey Mike, can you triangulate backwards to possibly the location where they're doing that from? I'm just wondering.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
The thing with that is there's nothing really to triangulate. All we have is the sensor reacting to whatever is being projected. The sensor is going to go in line, so it's going to straighten everything out. It's not going to show the actual, unless we get some kind of infrared type of system or camera set up.
Does the object appear to be solid? Or I'm just curious.
No, the object's always black. It's always the same shape. It always moves at the same rate. It's always in the same position. It's the same projection over and over. You'll see the same shape and position of the ISS and the sun. Next month later, you'll see the same. They use the same projection over and over. Where they're projecting it from, I don't know. But we got to remember, the moon itself, and I didn't really want to cover this, the moon itself is a projection. It's not a solid object. And
right, but the moon is not us.
Makes it easier for them.
Right, and so the moon, it's not a solid object, so they're projecting this across another projection. Now, the moon is projected on top of our electromagnetic atmosphere. It's a project on top. This is why we see the moon reverse in Australia 180 degrees. It's simply because of the negative polarization of our own electromagnetic field. This is why the sun arcs away from the observer 15 degrees and goes down, because it is like the rainbow. It's projected through a polarized field. If you're in Australia, the sun arcs the opposite way. So we learned all this last year. And so that's what they're using, this projection technology off our field. And so they're not having to project it very far. So the point of projection, we'd have to do some infrared. We'd have to have the equipment to track that.
Well, here's an idea. If you were to sit there and use a P900 the right time, and it also on top of it all had a night vision camera or whatever hooked up to that, as well as what you're saying, and get all three different spectrums, and then do your analyzing.
Right, which I would love to do. But we need flat earthers pointing P900s at these transit positions.
Yeah, I'll send you one tomorrow.
I'll have to try that sometime.
Yeah, if you can catch the ISS, great. I want to see it, and I went the raw video on that, because you can capture it. This is why a lot of globe earthers think we're nuts, because they think it's real, but it's not.
I've got a question, Mike, too. Well, continue. You go ahead, and then I'll come with a question after.
Oh no, I was just staying the way. Well, I just did a video on the ISS, but most of my videos are about casting doubt on the globe model and the different aspects of it as a whole. I mean, one of the major things about the ISS is the idea that it's supposed to be moving at a speed of around 17,000 miles per hour, like 10 times faster than the speed of a bullet. I mean, come on, guys. This thing's supposed to be the size of a football field. We've got what these rockets take off about what speed now, and then they catch up to the ISS while it's going 10 times the speed of a bullet, and then they dock, and they're taking Halloween costumes up there, and all their fancy technology so they can play with water out in. I mean, it's ridiculous to even think that it's up there.
The gorilla suit made it on the payload.
Yeah, like seriously, that was the priority. That was on the manifest before you loaded it up.
Well, not only that, when you say, you bring up a good point, D. Marble. You when you say 17,000 miles an hour. Now, when this guy posted that video of, see, the ISS is right there, I filmed it, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, if this thing is going faster than a bullet, how could we even see it? I don't know about you guys, but I've shot in a gun and I could never see the bullet.
Right.
All right. I'll answer that.
Okay.
Yeah. We did the calculations from the P900 frame rate speed, frames per second, to how fast it's moving. Dr. Zach actually did those for me. You all know Dr. Zach. And it is possible to see across the moon in those frames. Right. We didn't think it was, but it is. We did the math. And actually, NASA has it timed just right. They have the timing down on that.
Then how is it you cannot see a bullet with the naked eye?
Wes, I was just going to say, you can, if they're subsonic, between 900 feet per second and down, you can sometimes see the round.
Wow.
Yes,
hey, everybody, I'm going to interject here. I got to get ready to go. I got a couple errands I got to do before I head out to the Flat Earth Brewery. So it was good talking to everybody. I wanted to leave you all with this comment that I mirrored the Convex Earth video on my channel, and I got this interesting comment here. The documentary is played by crisis actors. I just looked up so on and so forth, names in the documentary, and no results at all. So my reply was, what if the information is true? These people are actors, and everything we have seen in the video is a reenactment, like most television. Does that change the validity of the information provided, even though the Earth is still a level, motionless plane, as shown by other less credible, more genuine sources? So the reason why I kind of steered him to that conclusion is the people out there who are still plugged in have a sense of the news and how they present information. And most of us in this community understand that what we see on mainstream media, we could say you're probably a crisis actor and just discredit that. And so that's what the people plugged in believe is the news is real. So even though this documentary, as claimed by this person who left this comment, are crisis actors, that doesn't change the information that was provided. And the dramatic music throughout the entire video leaves you to that conclusion that this is a slow release, that they want people who will identify with this documentary will, and then 6 months from now we'll have another one. So I just thought that comment was interesting because it doesn't change how the information was presented, because these people believe they're crisis actors. They don't believe there's crisis actors during news, mainstream media, and gun control, terrorism. So.
Right. Good comment. I covered a little bit that earlier. These guys are not crisis actors. 3 of them are related. They do believe the Earth is flat. They have earlier videos. They have other websites that they have stuff on. One guy is adamantly against NASA and SpaceX. He was in that video as a researcher. One guy is a legitimate engineer. Built a dam in the 80s. He has an engineering degree. And so what the video is a post-production video of the test that they did. And so the video is not, most of the video is not actual film from their test. And I think that's what flat earthers are having trouble with.
Also, one other thing is that, well, actually I got a chance to go back and forth with one of the guys, Alessandro Oliveira. And yeah, you know, I had some questions about satellites, space, things like that, and they're planning to release more documentaries or mini documentaries in the future to follow up on things that were missed, because there's a lot of people complaining they could have talked about this, they could have talked about that. I'm like, it would have been an 8-hour freaking video if they would have covered everything necessary. But as Mark said, it was kind of like a, you know, kind of a slow release, you know, so people don't freak out too much by finding out that their whole reality's been a lie. But there's more information coming out, you know, and like Josh said, and he dropped off. Darn it. I want to say bye to that guy. But as Josh, just because I don't know, people believe that they're crisis actors or that they're not legit, that doesn't change the results of the experiments that were conducted. So, right. I mean, at the same time, that's globehead logic. And since when do globies believe in crisis actors?
Yeah, that part is kind of weird right there. And what a weird thing to say, but Josh handled it very, very well.
Yes, he did.
He is off, like you said, to go to a meetup, but he did leave his email address. If somebody wants to go to the meetup and they're not sure where it is or what it is, his email address is jswifty1981@gmail.com, jswifty1981@gmail.com. So if you want to email him and say, hey, where is it? I don't know where the location is, blah, blah, blah. jswifty1981@gmail.com. You can get a hold of Josh. So
yeah, now these people did add boats to their documentary. They did add them. The boats weren't really there in the film. They did use green screens, and I checked all that out. But here's the thing: they actually believe what they believe. They believe it. They actually, I believe, did the tests. You know, and so that's what it is. It's a documentary. And it's no different than any other documentary, because there's no documentary out there that's doing it live. Okay, if it was live, the camera would be stick everywhere. You would not have all the fancy post-production and titling. You would not have the fade in and fade outs. It would look like garbage. It's a documentary. That's what it is. All right, I'm going, Patricia.
Hey, what you were speaking about before, Mike, about the moon being a projection. Yeah, I get that. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. But a projection on something else, or just a projection, period, end of?
Well, Patricia, you're getting out of those less simple things that Mark and I were discussing about that draw flat earthers into our movement. It's a projection, and we knew this during the eclipse because there was no moon that blocked the sun. There was no physical object that blocked the backlighting of the sun. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If there had been a solid object there, then the backlight of the sun, we wouldn't have been able, shouldn't have seen all the sun in the background, but we did. Okay. And so that's when we first got the clue. And I started working with Chris Monk and other people of the Sun and Moon group, some really brilliant people. And we got some footage from some nighttime balloon footage. And so what the moon does, Patricia, if you're like in a balloon at night, the moon you won't be able to see the surface of the moon if you're above most of our electromagnetic atmosphere. Okay, what you're going to see is a bright, glowing light. And that's going to look like it's sitting on top of our clouds because it's projected from somewhere else. Now, if you put a filter on that camera, Patricia, then what you're going to see is all that disappears, and then you're going to see a little bright point light, exactly the same size like our sun. Also to note, the sun and the sunspots that we have monitored rotate at the same rate that our moon rotates as both of the objects pass above us in the sky. So that tells us that the objects themselves are not rotating, but we're looking at a rotational thing due to a projection through our electromagnetic atmosphere or a polarized field. And so having a polarized field being projected through, it will appear to rotate. This is why, like I said, the moon appears to flip 180 degrees when you're viewing it from Australia as opposed to the northern hemisphere. Now, the moon does not flip east or west. If it was a physical object, it would have to obey the same point of axis laws in the same zenith. The moon would flip 180 degrees, crossing under it on the equator, east and west, but it does not. It will only flip viewed from the northern southern hemisphere. And so what this tells us is that because the top half of Earth is a positive magnetic field and the bottom half is our negative field, that we're looking, the flipping is only occurring through the way the light waves are polarized here to us on Earth. And so that is what, and also, you know, when we saw like people take pictures of, well, there's clouds moving behind the sun and there's clouds moving behind the moon, you know, you've seen those videos and photos. Well, that's only because where that person's standing from point of projection, because that light's projected on top of our atmosphere and our electromagnetic field. Yes, of course, there's going to appear at times, depending on the conditions, you're going to see clouds moving behind both the sun and moon. Both are projection lights. Interestingly enough, Alex Jones had just published some things other scientists have found, and they came out with this year that scientists are saying the stars, sun, and moon are projection lights, and space background is flat due to the cosmic gamma radiation waves. Have you heard of that theory, that space is flat? These are from mainstream scientists now. They're starting to leak this information out. So the question is, where are they going to take this narrative in the future? But yes, both sun and moon are projection lights. They're not physical objects. And this is why, you know, Mark had that video of the pilot. The pilot was fine. They said the sun just appeared on the other side of us. They said that's impossible. And Mark has that video on his channel. And that's simply because the sun resets in over the Pacific Ocean. And we have video of that in actual cams of that. So the sun moves across us and then it resets. So how does that work? I have no idea, Patricia, but that's our observation to this point.
So it's projected to look like a sphere then, in a way. It's the design of it is projected to kind of have those edges that seem to curve circularly to fool us. Was this made to fool us?
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm a Christian, as you know, and if God made that, why'd you make it look like craters on the moon, God? I mean, come on. Or do they have a purpose? You know, right. And that is a great point. You know, if it was created, what was the creator thinking? You know, or did the creator want us to seek the truth and not listen to the lies of men? That was the creator wanting us to walk by faith. Because ultimately, if you believe in a globe model, it's a faith religion. Okay. And to break that, you have to start having faith in a flat Earth model. I mean, there has to be a belief that rises up in you to say, I'm going to look into this more and be critical of the globe model. So everything seems to be based or start on faith anyways, and then after that we get the evidence. Without that faith, Patricia, you would have blown off flat Earth and probably been a famous radio person in Los Angeles somewhere, you know.
Well, without faith, we would never get in a car or get on an airplane or do anything. We have to have faith in something, as George Michael famously saying, "Got to have faith." So
now you bring up this great point about projection, and I want everybody out there to stop and think about this. It would make so much more sense that it is a projection, because have you ever, anywhere on the earth, has anyone been directly under the moon? I don't think so.
No, it'll always arc like a rainbow. The sun and moon both act like our rainbows act. Okay.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm already past my time because I do have a meet to go to. So I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping in. I wish Zulu would have talked a little more, but it's okay. He's at work right now. So
no, I'm not at work, but I was trying to be respectful because everybody was making good points, and I didn't want to step on anybody. I had things to say. I really did, but I wanted to hear them.
Oh, you should have jumped right in, though. But that's okay. It was a great show. I loved it. Everybody was respectful of everyone. It wasn't like everyone talking over each other. I loved it. I thank you all very much for stopping in. And I also appreciate 41, almost 43 people.
You guys are awesome
to watch this show.
Well, I'll mirror this when I can download it.
Each and every one of you can mirror it, do whatever you want, even people in the chat. I don't care.
There's a lot of great stuff.
I shared on YouTube and, on Facebook and Twitter. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Here I'm going to do my Zulu impression.
Whoa. My brother from another mother.
That's good.
That is awesome.
That's good. Similar glasses.
Awesome.
I forgot to get mine on.
You're awesome.
There you go.
Korea was cool.
Thank you very much, Wesley, for having us all on. It's been fun and interesting, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for stopping in.
The easy things. And flat earthers get along, don't attack each other. We'll eventually someday come to consensus on the map and how it all works, but we're all working together, okay?
Yeah.
Love it.
Like I say, same team.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. We're all being lied to.
Exactly.
Well, with all of that being said, and copying from Miss Patricia Steer, keep it flat, everybody.
Keep it flat.
Bye.
Keep it flat. Bye, guys. Love yous.
Keep it flat. Oh, okay. I had never done that before. Now somebody's gonna make a video. Oh yeah, Mike and D Marble were throwing out.
And
everybody get it up there.
Not by the neck. Don't do it by the neck, man.
Oh, is that where it goes wrong? Okay.
Yeah, keep it real.
You gotta come down.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. There you go.
All right,
guys.
Bye, everybody.
Good.
Thanks, Wes.
Saturday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have fun at the meetup.